I am very blessed to live in this country and have had so many beautiful, wonderful experiences in life. One of the reasons is because my brother, Don Dio, who was stationed in Korea during the Korean War, 1950. That's when the war started. I was still in grade school. And within 3 days of the start of North Koreans invaded, they overran Seoul. And to be honest with you, many of the citizens fled. At the same time, many stayed because they were happy to see reunited the country instead of a divided Korea. After 3 years of a harsh living, actually, we really found out how awful they were. If you say something negative, slight negative about the regime, you would not see the person forever. It is obvious what happened to them. After living terrible conditions, finally, South Korean and Americans and the United Nations forces took control of that. During that time, the communist country, the soldiers were merciless, just set fire everywhere and start to kill the people before they retreated. It wasn't burning, and at the same time, jets would come and that bombed, and we were running for our lives, seeking shelters. And I was living with my grandmother. She could not move quickly enough to find a shelter, and she was killed. And I was left by my own, without knowing anybody except some neighbors. But they were just like we are. We were at that time.
How old were you at this point?
And I was just turning teen. I was a little. I thought, and finally they retreated and the Americans came. However, it took me about a month trying to find a place to sleep, try to find food to eat, and that everybody had the same situations. So my passion was always music, and to comfort myself, I would sing Italian songs. I don't know why. I thought that was a Korean song, but find out later in my life, several years later, they were Italian songs. They were very popular in Korea. So I was singing O Sole Mio and the Ritorna Sorrento, and etc. And the jeep came along with several GIs, screeched, stopped, and they came, and they listened for a while. And I must look very terrible. I mean, tattered clothes, unwashed for several days. City was all burnt. People were making tin sheds, building in the middle of Seoul. There's a little mountain there. I mean, it looked horrible. And the kids my age do the kind of things that they are not supposed to do to earn a few cents. So all I know is that my grandmother always said, low-class people always get into that way. We are not. We are never to shame our family name. That's a big thing, honor, keeping honorable family name in Korean culture in those days. So, only thing I could do was sing on the street. And these GIs, one of the GIs looked and had me chocolate. I believe it was a Hershey's chocolate. For the first time I took that and ate, I thought I died and went into heaven. It was so delicious. Anyway, he tried to ask me, but I didn't know the language. He didn't know Korean either. So we were talking in sign languages as best as we can. Mama. Oh, yeah, we understand Mama. Papa. I said, motion. Nobody, in other words. Then he talked with his buddies, and they asked me to get onto the jeep. So it took me to the 8th Army compound and explained it to the mess sergeant, Carter, from California. Blonde, blue, piercing blue eyes, and a kind of glassy. And he heard my brother dance. He was not brother then. Explain it to him that he's all by himself, no parents, apparently, he must told. Could we stay there and you can feed food like we eat in the mess hall? So he says, okay. He was very generous. So I stayed. They got me a cot with a blanket. Of course, there are no sheets, there's a scratchy green. But that was something else. I mean, that was better than, many times better than nothing. So I lived there, and about 2 months later, we had to retreat again because communist Chinese started to invade over the Manchuria. So eventually they were closer. So we left, and that he says, I got to take you. So fortunately, he was working at the motor pool, and he was a great mechanic, and everybody wants to be friends. Donnie, fix this. Donnie, fix that. And, and by doing that, he could ask Master Sergeant of Supply Sergeant, will you find him the smallest fatigue and the boots as small as it comes? So they got me that. The smallest was about this long, and the boot was about this much bigger. I just put it on, better than tattered clothing. So we went down to Daegu, retreated, and I didn't hear much any gun sound pounding. We stayed there for 2 years, and he knew that I loved the music, so he would give me $1 so I find music teacher so I can take lesson. It only cost me 25 cents per lesson. So it went a long way. Anyhow, 2 years after duty was done, over, he asked Sergeant Carter and his buddies to look after me because he is going to come to United States. I'm going to make sure that we bring him home to Iowa. So I said, Iowa? Where the heck is, I never heard of Iowa. There's a lot more involved in those days. We have to make it everything legal. So you have to go through procedures, and they have a quota systems, and the quota was filled for about 7 or 8 years. And when Don went home, he told his parents about me, and he is a special, that we want to bring him home to Iowa and educate. So my education ended in 1950 in Korea. Eventually, after 4 years of that, and the paperwork finally got done, and I came home. To Iowa. Oh, what a beautiful country. I thought I died and went to heaven. It was so beautiful. I used to sing constantly, learn that. First thing they did was find me a voice teacher and a piano teacher. So I was blessed. From there on, just went on, and the whole families, our family was fantastic. I would like to dedicate this song in memory to my brother Don Dio, and also my mother, and the other brothers, all the siblings who have been very generous and welcoming.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high, and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky, and the sweet silver song